Whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. Hello there, beloved Ascension pioneers, and welcome to this video. It will be a short light exercise for our ascension to build our column of light, but not only to build it, but to maintain it. So, I've been sharing many exercises and techniques in order for those of you who really feel called and know that you are in the path of physical ascension, how to build your column of light. So I call it the white pillar of light, our pillar for unity consciousness, our unified self. We've been, and I know probably a lot of you have been doing this, and I know I repeat that steadily all the time, but it really needs this process. It needs our focus, it needs our attention, it needs our diligent action. So if we're not putting any energy to it, I'm not saying it has to be hard and effort kind of based way and approach to this, but I'm saying it needs to be a steady devotion, which I'm always talking about. Without devotion, things can't just happen. I know there's a lot of people who still say, who will lead us into ascension, or what will happen, or this miracle, or this and that, but it does require our own work. Ascension happens through us, for us. So what I want to share today, and I'm recording this on a beautiful but also very intense full moon in Sagittarius, Aquarius. Sounds kind of similar, but it's not. So this moon really brought up some intensity, which is also the intensity of how we create. Because the Aquarius, we know it as the water bearer, and yet it is the sign of telepathy and waves of energy and motion energy. It has waves, which we often kind of interpret as water. But this really does imply our higher consciousness, attuning to that higher consciousness so we can step into that transcendental wisdom that later, that final sign of the zodiac encompasses, like the sign of Pisces. So through Aquarius, we actually can receive the initiation of really aligning with that higher consciousness. So what I've received during this energetic upgrade is that a lot of us, when we start to build that column, we're still working with our chakric system, right? And it gets more and more unified. But there's a synthesis that needs to occur between how our feminine self creates and how our masculine self creates. And Ascension is all about the polarization. So it's the unity of the polarized light. The masculine self, the feminine self, creating the third energy, becoming a radiant divine child. So for us to really tune into that, I want to give us an example before we do a short exercise. A lot of the time when we let's say we approach a certain something or a project or an idea that we have, not always from a balanced point of view. So for example, I'm going to give you my example. I love doing photos and videos and everything that's artistic, and dancing and doing my yoga routines, and all of these things are very organic for me, in nature connection. What I do, it's completely connected to the great goddess energy, to this pearl of life in Ascension. But when it comes to me facing this physical world, a lot of the times I need to put in more effort, which sometimes will require a lot of computer work and synthesizing things in a physical matter and approaching things in a linear fashion. So that infinite creative space, and how to then move it into that physical reality. There will also be in our physical reality always somehow resistance from the outside world. A lot of times it comes through other people. They might have demands on us. They might require our time and attention, and we might not always give it, because the stronger we get in our ascension pillar, the more we know what's meant for us and what's good for us, and what feeds our ascension white column of light, and what kind of distracts us from this path and makes us more scattered and not really focused. I know this is probably one of the hardest initiation. Well, not hard, but it's really challenging, because we might have a focus, right? You might have this diligent focus, like, okay, I'm doing this, I am ascending, I am choosing this physically. But then you come into this outer self and you get distracted by the things you need to do, and it's not really organic. It doesn't feel organic and juicy anymore. And then a lot of people quit because they stop persisting, because they don't know how to unify this feminine, when you're shown this creation self, when you're receiving from your womb, when you're creating from your womb. And then a lot of people tend to neglect this masculine aspect, and that is is why we have a lot of people who might be very spiritually connected to the higher realms, but they don't always know how to bring it into the materialized way. For example, how to financially be also sustained, how to be grounded in this physical form. I'm going to give you one example of the column of the pillar that's really grounded. Imagine an example of a rock. So you know, often I record my videos next to mountain water streams and waterfalls. The rocks, sometimes you imagine this huge boulder rock. That's kind of like how your pillar will feel like, because the rock might seem like it's static and it's not moving, but it's not true. The water always flows through the rock, because the rock penetrates, allows that penetration of that which is for its highest good to occur. And for other things, the rock is steady and it says no. So this is how we're becoming. We're becoming transparent for that which sustains life and which is life affirming. And we're kind of saying no, and we're getting those boundaries really intact with what feels demanding. I'm going to give you one example. Recently someone wrote to me, and I have a lot of people writing and, you know, sharing their stuff, which basically is just their stuff. It's for them. But someone wrote to me, and then when they gave me something, it's just shared as just a perspective, and then they wrote, well, when I'm writing this, I'm feeling your resistance to this. And then I tuned into, how can they feel my resistance to this, because they're not me, right? As much as we can say we're tuning to other people, and then what Spirit showed me is that because when you become really sovereign, really strong, really grounded in your light, when people will still try to send you their energetic impressions and thoughts and whatever they think that's reality for you, but it's really their reality and their perceptions. So when you become more sovereign and more intact, you will radiate with also not just a yes, but you will also emanate with a powerful no, which is a synthesized motion of unity. You're not always going to say yes to everything, to every demand, to every request. And I know for a lot of you that might feel challenging because you feel overwhelmed with this physical world and you want to stay then clogged up in your inner beautiful meditative space. Well, we are here to learn through resistance. We're actually becoming ascended masters through that law of resistance, which is what I always share. It's not just staying up here and channeling and doing all these wishy-washy things, right? This is, you know, you can connect. You have a lot of connected people. That doesn't necessarily mean their soul evolved in maturation to really master themselves in the physical. So that's what we're doing as Ascension Pioneers. We're paving the way for that. So as a response to that request, I actually received guidance that the person did feel they were connected to my resistance, but it wasn't my resistance to what they shared with me. It was my resistance to saying, no, thank you, that's not my guidance, that's not for me. And then you say, no, but thank you, but no thanks, right? We have to learn to say those things. And the stronger you get in your white pillar of light, the more natural this will be for you. And people might react because they'll say, but you always, you know, someone just recently called me out and they say, wow, you used to say this and now you say this. Oh my God, you know, you're not who you say you are. I'm like, no, I'm changing. The thing is that when I'm getting less the people pleaser mode and being there for everyone, but being here for the white pillar of unity and everything that aligns with that, which already will be for the highest good, all those old distorted patterns, which is being there for everyone, answering every person's demand and request, are dissolving. So when someone will feel that, and if it's someone you've been feeding for a while in your life even, they might get scared because they feel your light as in it's leaving them, but it's not leaving them. You're just strengthening your pillar, which means you're becoming more discerning in where your energy is and where it's supposed to be focused and where it's not supposed to go. Because as master energy, that's what you need to do. So I'm going to show you a beautiful energy exercise for you to do and to master. You can continuously repeat it. It's not just for now, but this is when I received it. This exercise is a powerful tool to balance those masculine and feminine aspects of us and how we create. So it's not just how we receive, right? We already are a masculine, feminine essence is in balance self in our potential. But for our physical form to translate that, to embody that, we need to go through certain initiations and we need to integrate that. So through this light exercise, you can see how your energy will be more balanced. It will be more harmonious and flow. So before doing the exercise, I also want to say that this is so important because a lot of times we feel we're helping when we're really not helping. You think you have to answer every response and request, and sometimes even egoic demands of other people. And you think you're ascended because of that, because, you know, you're a savior, you're a martyr, or you're this compassionate being. But that's not really true compassion. Humans made masters martyrs or people pleasers or, you know, saviors or, you know, wow, they're going to lead me into ascension. It's the human ego that does that. True master knows that you do the most work of light when you focus on that which truly is of the light and not pleasing every single demand. Some requests will be of the light, but not all. So as masters of energy in training, you will have to learn that. And when you get like thrown at with people by stones, and people will say mean things to you, nasty things, well, a huge part of this journey is to embrace a part of you that says, you know what, I can't feed those who are still calling out for attention, but I'm feeding those who are hungry to eat and drink from the fountain of life in order to rediscover their own fountain of life. This is what we're doing here as masters of energy. We're not making people codependent. Sometimes people get infatuated by your light and it starts rising a lot, but we're not here to do that. And as I've been going through this myself, I've seen just how much saying no was a part of this natural process when my white pillar of light started to strengthen. The light body strengthens, and the lesser self and all those tendencies and beliefs just dissolve. Okay, so let's get to the exercise part before this video gets too long. So it's a very simple exercise, right? What you do is you sit in a yoga position, whatever feels right for you. Relaxed breathing. And let me remind you, this is not a light activation, which I do, which I literally guide, and you know, it's a long video. I'm just going to show you how the exercise goes so you can see if you can somehow implement it in your routine, in your Ascension exercise routine, or whatever works for you, if it resonates for you. So you can try it out to see. Well, for me, it's really good. I felt really amazing and empowered after that. So imagine that you have, when you start breathing in from your first chakra and rising the column of light upwards, just imagine like a beautiful sacred white fire overflows you, right? Like always, because it does. So when you do that, just start, especially if you feel stressed or if you're pleasing people or you have lots of demands and sometimes our belly starts to clog up, or just do these contractions. So take your hand, preferably the right one, and start doing counterclockwise rotating motions to soothe your belly. So what you're also doing, you're not just caressing your belly, making it more, you know, blissful, but what you're doing is you're starting to spiral up the energy. So you're creating this spiraling space within you, within the center that we know sometimes as our center of power. But when you feel like, I feel soothed, I feel peaceful, I feel relaxed, take your fingers, but right now I would take my left hand and I would take my thumb and I would put it in my navel, my belly button. And the other finger, which is the middle finger or the index, if it's long enough for you, some people have shorter fingers if they can do that, and place one in your navel point, this one, and the middle finger place in your second chakra, so a little below your navel. So that they create this movement. So put this like this in the belly region. Start breathing into that, and as you do so, you're imagining a translucent diamond liquid light triangle forming in between those two. So if you imagine when you breathe through your first base chakra and spiraling your life force, sometimes called the Sekhem, which is the sacred Shekinah life force, you're blending it, you're rotating it, and you're always with breathing moving it upwards. And as it travels through these 2 points, we want to create the interlocking energy harmonious flow between the 2, so that the source of power, which sometimes we know as more masculine, self courageous, powerful, empowered self, and the masculine, the womb of creativity self. So imagine you have a project like I've shared with you before. You do something artistic, but then you also have to share it out. You have to put it out. You sometimes have to deal with people and money and, with situations, because we're in the physical world now. So to master that imbalance, you're going to need these 2 centers to be balanced, equally and measuredly balanced. So now imagine that between your hands, between your fingers, this beautiful translucent triangle with the diamond crystalline light is being formed. Take a while, breathe into the triangle. And when you feel this motion, when you feel that there's like a beautiful harmonious flow between your womb self and your center of power, right? Interlock it, really feel it. You can also just simply make the intent and feel that this is so. It's enough. You don't have to make something so drastic about it. It doesn't have to be so fancy. Just feel it. So now, when you feel that you've done this, you've interlocked this triangle, it's really rooted in there. Imagine it's spinning, and it spins in a counterclockwise position. And when you feel that, when you're ready, when you feel that there's readiness, add the counterclockwise spinning triangle, right? And when they do that, when they spin like that, they create their Star of David Merkaba. When you're ready now, again, through your base chakra with the in-breath, stir up the energy, stir up the life force, and then draw it through those triangles. And imagine how it comes through that center in a perfectly harmonious, balanced way, because a triangle is a divine trinity. And when it floats in both ways, you have masculine and feminine, right? Rotated, counterclockwise balance. And the last stage of this exercise is when you really feel good and seated and rooted within it. Imagine now this spinning Merkaba, David Star, again through the root. Expand your belly when you in-breath. You take an in-breath, and with the out-breath, contract it within and draw, and imagine that Merkaba, the spinning star, starts to move up. And it starts to be raised within your column of light. So that this, what you've created, will start again moving up towards the higher centers where you receive. As you feel that this is so, sometimes you need more in-breaths and out-breaths to push up the Merkaba. Push it out through your crown. Create a V-shaped motion with your hands for better symbology, so you can feel how then with this, when you cosmically spread it out, you send it out, then you also are the recipient of the receiving force again, returning back through the multiplied and amplified force, which is always like this. Whatever you create, you generate, and then it has a potential to always vibrationally expand more and more. That's what you're doing with this, with the receiving end. And when you're ready, when you feel you've done that, interlock the hands, return to your heart. Feel that this is so. Seal the energy. You can also, if you want, make a triangle, touching your belly, and feel again energy here, sealed, balanced, divine trinity balanced. Simple exercise, but it can create, if you're diligent, if you're steady, and if you're devoted to it, it can create powerful results. There's a second addition exercise to this one, which is the strengthening of your creation pillar. It's very simple. We did that in a couple, as two of us, because as we learn to amplify our own energy and build our column is really strong. It's like you know who you are. Nothing will waver you and will hinder you. It can come. There will be resistances, but you're like a steady pillar, and you know your journey. You know where you stand your ground. Okay. So when this is complete, with the second stage, you might just feel yourself sitting in that strong, almost like a boulder rock strong vortex of your own light column. And when you're in the column, just simply decide and have a feeling like nothing can move you. You can imagine forces of nature coming, like strong winds and floods and people trying to push you and move you. And just imagine how they can't. Nothing can. Because your energy flows through the life force. It's not pushed, it's not forced. It is of the force. So therefore it does not need to be forced. That's just how it is. So you simply allow that to build, strengthen within you, because you know that as a sovereign, as a master of the self, you get to choose. You get to choose how powerful you will be, as how much you believe you can be. And those old perceptions of we need to be there for every single thing, do every single thing, it's like making us a god when we're still embracing our human part, you know? So just embrace the human aspect, that the human you always does as best as it can, as highest as it can, when you simply devote to that truth. That's good enough. It is good enough. Don't try to be the martyr or the servant. You know, to be in divine service is not the same as to be a servant. It's just not the same. So when you are in service to all life in creation, you will start noticing these changes, and a lot of times, first the resistance will come. You might get tested with people coming saying, knock, knock, who's there? Well, you know, I'm going to bring you some of my own inflated ego, because people will react to that, to When the power increases, you're always going to get these tiny little buildups of energy shown to you through other people a lot of times, and it will kind of like test you. And these are sacred initiations, and you get to decide what you will choose, whether you're kind of going to fall for that, or you're going to say, no, I know how I serve when I'm in the pillar, and I know how I can actually be misplacing that for that of the servitude, which is the lesser self. It is a reality, but it's not our ultimate when we are choosing self-mastery. So I hope this was helpful for you. Don't get scared if people get scared of your power, but you know, the only thing that's the true fear is the fear we generate from within that can stop us, you know, that can prevent us from that. In the end, when you're really devoted to this path, nothing else will matter. I mean, it doesn't matter who watches what you do a certain way, if people find you funny, if they find you like this, if they think you're not kind enough, if you're not polite enough, if they have opinions, criticism, whatever. What matters is the balance of your harmonious feminine creative self, masculine creative self, because we're bringing that out in creation. That's how we're going to create new earth. It's just not going to do it just etherically, right? So it's important not just to connect, but to live our connections, to ground and embody this divine love and harmony and simplicity and truth. And that's how we strengthen the pillar. Okay, thank you, and have a beautiful time. As always, thank you for supporting what I do. If you are guided to sorry, dry throat. If you're guided to make an energetic exchange for what I do, what I offer, donations are always available on my page. Thank you for those who are doing that already. So much love, gratitude, and love, wisdom, and power. Take care. Bye-bye.
Welcome into my world, the world of the elven song, magical.